Hello everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Alice and this channel is called Alice's Life. In today's video I'm going to be talking all about how I managed to save money, how I managed to save £10,000 as a PhD student in the UK. As a bit of a backstory, I started my PhD candidature in no debts, apart from my undergraduate student loan, which you only start paying off after you earn a certain amount. I had no debts from my master's at all because I was awarded a £10,000 bursary and I lived at home and I had a part-time job to pay for my diesel and extracurricular activities. So there were absolutely no debts that I had to pay off, which meant that my PhD stipend could all be spent on savings and living my life for those 3 years. So at the time, the stipend was about £1,200 a month, which is about £14,000 a year. So it was with knowledge, economy, skills scholarships, and it was the second phase, and that is a pan-Wales, all across Wales, scholarship system with European funding, European Social Fund, and I think there were about 600 PhD students over the whole time, not during those specific 3 years, but like over the whole stage of stage 2. So it's a really big thing, and £14,000 isn't really much to live on, particularly if you were coming at it as a mature student. But I'd just been living as a student for my master's, so £14,000 to continue being a student was completely fine with me. And in addition to the £14,000, I got a £3,000 budget to spend on travel, conferences, consumables, and equipment. So in the first year I bought an expensive laptop, £1,300, which is more than the cost of my first car. I went travelled to conferences, travelled to London, travelled to Paris, which was great, and all these fun things. But that £3,000 was every year. If you did not spend it, it could not be carried over to the next year. So it's really important that if you want to spend it, which you might as well, you should spend it. Just get on it. My PhD stipend was paid monthly, and I had to submit timesheets saying I had worked a full 35 hours per week, and then that monthly timesheet had to be signed by my director of studies or another PhD supervisor before I took it to the woman in charge of finance. And it was really important that I did not fall behind on the timesheets because otherwise I wouldn't be able to get the funding. But it's good that I was paid monthly at the end of the month, because then it became a bit more like a proper job. There was the £14,000 stipend every year, plus the £3,000 to spend on consumables, equipment, travel, conferences, and then also, thirdly, all my tuition fees were paid. So I've checked on the website. At the moment, they're about £5,000, but I think they were a bit less at that time because I started in 2017. But it was really great that that was paid. So the £14,000 was all for me, tax-free because I was a student. The last bit of the backstory and my philosophy towards saving is that I'm not really a regular saver. Like, I know some people think, oh, we should put £300 aside or £500 aside every single month, but I don't think that really works for me, or maybe I'm just not organised enough. It's just some months seem to be very expensive, because in September I've got my car's MOT service, and then 1st of October I've got car insurance. So that's actually quite a lot of money. May I've got tax plus my birthday. So I don't know, I just prefer to not put in or not have a direct debit and put in a lump sum, usually like £1,000 this month, skip the next month, might be £2,000 the next time. Not regular at all, but that's kind of how I managed to build up my savings to get to that £10,000 goal. In my 3rd year of the PhD, I opened a Help to Buy ISA, and I immediately put the maximum amount in, which was £1,200, and then I set up a direct debit which still goes out on the 2nd of every month, right even now, over 2 years later. Yeah, so that's really built up to quite a considerable sum in that Help to Buy ISA. But apart from that, my savings approach has always been very ad hoc, and as and when. When I started the PhD, I set myself a goal to save about £10,000, and the reason for this is that I wanted a decent amount in my property deposit, ready to buy a house, because I believe that once I finish the PhD, I'd be able to walk in, get a decent job. Now I'm a doctor, but it wasn't like that. But anyways, I still have the money sitting there, ready to buy a house when I need to and when I'm going to. Okay, so the first thing and the most considerable cost for a lot of people would be their accommodation. So I was living in South Wales. At the start there was a convergence area, so I had to live slightly outside of Cardiff to be able to get the stipend, but it actually changed in the second and third year so I could live in Cardiff. But property in Wales is luckily very cheap. Cardiff is a very affordable place for students. But during my 3 years, I stayed in 4 different rooms. I think they were, all 4 of them were double rooms, and they costed between £350 and £420, and they all included bills. So on top of that, I'd have to pay for my car parking, which was probably only like £20 or £30 a year, which is okay. But there were like TV license was included in this third one. Heating, there was no extra selling cost. It was all included in that price that I gave to the landlord in cash or by direct debit every single month. Yeah, so in my third year, I was leaving a house where I had signed a contract for 12 months. So I'd got to know those individuals quite well. And I was actually contemplating moving into a studio flat or 1-bedroom place and seeing what it's like to live by myself, because I was getting a little bit sick of housemates by this stage. I'd spoken to another PhD student and she told me that she thought it was worth it, and I actually was seriously considering it, but I'm so pleased I did not, because I only had 4 months left of the PhD at that stage, and it would have cost a lot of money, might have cost double, and also the whole problem of things like broadband, you often have to sign a 12-month contract. So I'm just pleased I stuck to sharing a house and having my own room. Although the last one was a bit weird because I ended up living with 6 guys and I was the only female. Yeah, 7-bedroom house, living with 6 boys. But I'm pleased because it always meant I was able to save the money. The next area that you can save money as a PhD student is food. So I was lucky that my office space at the university was next to a shared kitchen for staff, and I was technically a staff member because it said staff on my lanyard. Anyway, so I could use their kettle, use their microwave, which actually saves so much money, because if I had become one of those people that was always buying takeaway coffees and lunches out, that would have cost a lot. So shopping around, Asda's a good place to buy things, buying things when they're in bulk, trying to change your taste buds so you can eat the things that don't necessarily taste the best but still have all the nutrients you require. So for example, Alpro soya milk probably tastes nicer than Tesco Basics, or Tesco's Essentials, which is 59p. You save so much money because I drink 3 of those a week. So basically I saved a lot of money by meal prepping and taking in my lunches and dinners when it was a long day, having my own snacks, buying snacks when they were in bulk. Also eating more vegetarian and vegan meals, so like padding out, or even if you're going to buy meat, pad it out of kidney beans, so beef mince padded out of kidney beans, but I actually quite like the taste of vegan mince, but like padding it out with more vegan protein alternatives is actually a really good way to save money. But then you can sort of prioritise what's important. So I know at one stage I decided I wanted to buy free-range chicken thighs from Waitrose, which cost a lot of money and they were about this big. So I wouldn't really recommend because they shriveled up in the oven. So that wasn't the greatest, but I suppose it was good for the chickens. Although free-range can be a bit of a subjective idea. So yeah, but in general, if you stick towards more vegetarian and vegan things, you don't need to have meat every day. You don't need to eat meat twice a day. You'll still be able to function if you eat less meat. And the next way to save money would be through your travelling and your transport. So I always would, for personal travel, I'd prefer to use Megabus or National Express coach services rather than trains. So like you can get a coach from Cardiff to London for like £4 sometimes, whereas the train might be £60. However, if it was for university and I was using my £3,000 budget, then I can go on the train, or I can go on the plane, I can go anywhere, it doesn't matter as much. Also, like, hotel costs are less of an issue if they're coming out of that budget. So I decided to keep my car during the PhD candidature. This was particularly important because I had to live in this convergence area, so I was actually outside of Cardiff and a bit more into the Welsh countryside. Having a car was just so much easier for getting into university, and then if I went to events in the evenings or various things, or if I wanted to go out into the countryside and climb a mountain up into the Brecon Beacons. And then also I regularly drove from Cardiff to Kent in the southeast of England to visit family, and that could be up to 6 hours on the motorway. So when you're doing such a long time on the motorway, you just generally feel safer, although people were like, oh Alice, you should really downsize. It's like, no, that car has served me well. I'm pleased I've kept it. I've had it for 6.5 years now, and I want to keep it until it dies. Other things that you can do are look for toiletries that are cheaper. Don't go to your local shop. Go to like Poundland or Boots if they've got a sale on, and pick up what you need, what you require. Don't buy unnecessary things. Books can be purchased from Amazon, which isn't the greatest place, but actually that might be the only way you're allowed to buy books on your course with your £3,000 money for consumables, because a book counts as a consumable. Online books and things is better. Clothes shopping, I buy clothes now, and I did then, in charity shops and on the sale racks. Christmas sales are especially good. Summer sales can be good as well. I didn't regularly horse ride, but I occasionally, I think 3 times only, I went to a trekking place in the Brecon Beacons, which I found really good. So it was a 2.5-hour trek through the mountains, and that was an experience I really enjoyed. Maybe I should have kept up the horse riding, but I didn't keep it up, and that meant I was able to save a lot more, because horse riding is an expensive sport. But then you can't be a complete Scrooge. It's important to maintain your social life and do experiences that you're really going to remember years and years later. So I actually went and did yoga in Cardiff Museum in one of their gallery halls, and that was £10. That is a bit pricey for a yoga session, but it was like a once in a lifetime cool sort of thing, and I felt so relaxed. It was like 7 a.m. and I had to walk there in the dark, but after that I felt so nice and ready for the day ahead. I just did that once. I also tried a bit of hot yoga, but for students there's always a lot of free events, and nightclubs and things do special deals, or there's 2 for 1 on drinks. And then getting into nightclubs can be cheaper if you know someone. Get into other student unions, because there's 4 universities in Cardiff, so if you want to go out, then gang up with other people and go in together, buy each other drinks. Your university might have a gym, or you might have a gym that you want to go to in your local area. So I was a member of the university gym at one point for a few months, and that actually was a lot cheaper because I was a staff member, and the classes were really good. So that's something to consider. Don't just discount it, but you might want to check the facilities first. And then I also did other stuff like a sugarcraft course, because it's important to maintain other interests outside your PhD. Otherwise you might become like a little boffin sitting in the library, only focused on work. So try and make sure your life isn't all about PhD. So go to church, meet new people, go out for meals, just do a bit of mingling, and you should enjoy your PhD and save money. I'd say just in general, as a sort of conclusion, being a Scrooge and a scrimper served me well and meant I was able to save £10,000 on such a low budget. So I hope this video gives you some tips. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up, and bye.